Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker, and with me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And welcome to our fantasy preview episode for NASCAR at Talladega Superspeedway this weekend. We also have our predictions for the IndyCar race in St. Petersburg, as they are into their second round of their season this weekend as well. So we got some news and notes to get to as well in today's episode. But before we get into all that, how are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing good. Yes, very excited for Talladega coming up. Maybe a little more excited for my semester to finally be over with coming up next week. You are the lucky one who planned things out well, and you're free already. I still got a couple more things to finish up, but I think that's all forgiven because we got Talladega this weekend, the chaos that is, and it's going to be a grand weekend. Also, IndyCar at St. Petersburg is always fun, and then a couple other things as well. So doing well and excited to talk about this weekend in racing.
Yeah, Talladega, man, it's just a beast, and it's a hit or miss track for myself in fantasy. Mostly a miss. I don't think I've ever beaten you on any of the super speedways so far in fantasy. So
nope, and I've randomized lineups. So
yeah, it's been a rough go for me with this one. So it's not my most favorite episode ever trying to preview this weekend. But
I mean, I'm not going to the randomizer this time. Spoiler alert. So
I know,
you might have the edge this time. I don't know.
It's just really bad luck for me, man. No matter how cautious, no matter how aggressive I want to play it, it just never goes my way. So we'll see if that changes this weekend or if Kyle stays undefeated on these kinds of tracks. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But let's look at the news and notes for today's episode. And it's a pretty big one right out of the gate here with Netflix in the works of producing a documentary surrounding Bubba Wallace and the inaugural season of 23XI Racing. So this is obviously going on already currently. Netflix just announced it over this past week, and we've seen Netflix over this past couple of months or so do The Crew on Netflix, which was obviously like a sitcom style of NASCAR, but this is like a documentary kind of thing, similar we can expect to what Drive to Survive is for Formula One. They're trying to take that, very aggressive approach here, the behind the scenes look into NASCAR and specifically a NASCAR team and one of its most polarizing figures in Bubba Wallace for obvious reasons. It's been obviously quite the year for him, a whirlwind of emotions kind of year, and he's come out on the great side of things here at 23XI Racing. So it's going to be really, really cool to see how that all works out. What are your thoughts here, Kyle, on NASCAR and Netflix kind of partnering together here to make a Netflix documentary surrounding Bubba Wallace?
Yeah, this is a pretty cool one. Obviously, with The Crew and everything like that we've seen recently, there's definitely an interest between the two parties to kind of further their relations in things. We also saw Netflix, and specifically with The Crew earlier this year, sponsor Corey LaJoie's car, I believe it was, at the Daytona Road Course. Mm-hmm. So we've seen Netflix be involved with NASCAR here over the last few months. We've seen their involvement with motorsports and then sports as just kind of a bigger thing as well, with multiple different documentaries over the past couple of years. But the big thing is, of course, the Drive to Survive series that's hit absolutely huge for Formula One, and NASCAR looking at that and going, well, we can kind of pull from that and see what we can do here. And I think for Netflix, this is kind of them kind of tapping their toe in the water before they commit to something really, really big and really expensive, because we know that for the base that Netflix has and everything like that, Formula One is much more attractive in terms of a worldwide audience, in terms of the dramatics and everything like that. It just plays more into that kind of dramatized documentary style than NASCAR would out of the gate. You have to kind of feel more with that process, just given how based in America it is and everything like that. But starting with somebody like Bubba Wallace, who is arguably the biggest figure in NASCAR right now, especially for the target demographic that Netflix would be looking at. When you look at the involvement of Michael Jordan, 23XI Racing, Denny Hamlin as well, I think it all just combines to be kind of the perfect blend for Netflix to kind of get interested in NASCAR and kind of see the interest level when they release this, obviously, and probably by next year. So really cool to see. Great to see somebody like Bubba Wallace and a new team as well, getting that behind-the-scenes look on this bigger scale through Netflix. And hopefully this attracts a lot of interest when this eventually comes out on Netflix, because if this does well, and given The Crew as well earlier this year and the involvement there with Netflix, we could see more and more projects between the two come into the future.
I think next year would be the perfect year if they're ever going to do something for Drive to Survive to begin it, because it's a next-gen car, a new wave for the sport. It would be a great way to test the market, like you said here, and just see what the feedback is, and then try and go into next season, I think it would be a massive opportunity for NASCAR to showcase the new car that they've been working towards, and for Netflix itself to showcase the sport when it's maybe at its most uncertain time with how the performance will be with the teams and everything like that. I think it would create a lot of storylines as well. So they would have a tougher time breaking it down into 10 episodes for a 36 race season. So it'll be interesting to see if there's anything down the line regarding like a Drive to Survive NASCAR version, how they would present that and how they would handle that. Because it is probably a lot to unpack for, Well,
when you think about how they do it for Drive to Survive already, they don't cover every race, right? They do it basically each team or one kind of theme per episode. And I think you could probably boil it down to that and kind of have an episode for each big team, and then some bigger themes or a race specific kind of thing, like either the championship final, Daytona 500, stuff like that. So I think it's possible. You just have to, again, it's not going to be a one-to-one thing where you completely copy and paste the format from Drive to Survive over to NASCAR, because that just wouldn't work. So I think this is a great feeling out process to see how things work with this first kind of step here with this 2311 Bubba Wallace documentary in this first season for them, and then we can see where it takes them into the future. I think next year might be maybe a little too soon unless they really get an idea as to the interest level from this first year, but we'll see the involvement from NASCAR. Maybe they fund a lot of it and get it going for next year or something like that, but definitely some exciting things coming down the pipeline, especially with NASCAR and Netflix's involvement here.
Yeah, we saw how well The Last Dance went last season or last year with Michael Jordan.
That was ESPN who Netflix got it for Canada here, but just in general, just seeing the impact that Last Dance, Drive to Survive, all these kind of docu-series following sporting either teams or events or anything like that. We've seen Amazon Prime series as well recently. Like there's been a lot of interest from that recently, and definitely NASCAR has the ability to do so. It's just kind of actually coming through on it.
Yeah, we'll see how they handle it, but encouraging signs at least that they are looking into this market, and they realize that there is potential for more of a serious, hard-hitting kind of piece towards and content creating for NASCAR fans and just people that are maybe interested in looking to get into the sport. Like you don't have to be a diehard Formula One fan to like Drive to Survive. You can be a casual viewer, not even a fan at all, to enjoy what that series has to offer.
Where most of the people come from to watch it. So
yeah. Exactly. So encouraging signs there. Looking forward to seeing how that piece comes together. And I'm sure we'll talk about that probably in the off season when it actually debuts, when the season actually winds down, to see how 2311 Racing got on, if they made the playoffs, if they didn't, how well did Bubba Wallace do, that kind of thing for 2021. But let's move on to the next one here. Something that we've talked about highly on this show, and it's been probably the most debated thing, maybe the most useless debate, but the most debated topic that we've ever had on this show, and it revolves around Brett Moffitt. If you haven't tuned into any of our previous episodes or anything like that, Brett Moffitt obviously declared for Truck Series points prior to the season. And I was on the side of things where he should have gone for Xfinity Series points this season. With Our Motorsports, was going to do the full season anyways, but decided to go down to Nice Motorsports and do the full points there. Now, over the past couple of days, it has come to light that Brett Moffitt is declaring for Xfinity Series points from here on out for the 2021 season for Our Motorsports. As a result, he's going to have to decrease his running in the Truck Series and will not be able to participate in the championship finale kind of race down there. And he's eligible to make the playoffs now in the Xfinity Series if he can make that top 20 in points as well as win a race. It's going to take a race win for Moffitt to probably make the playoffs from here after he's missed, I guess, 6 races or something like that. 6 races so far for the Xfinity Series season.
I think 7, but I could be wrong.
Nonetheless, it's definitely been a topic of discussion on this show. I don't know how much you want to get into this, Kyle, but it felt good from my end that he's decided to go with Xfinity Series points. I'm disappointed that he didn't start the season like that, but nonetheless, I think he's made the right call here. And, we've exchanged some texts yesterday, obviously, about the situation, but your thoughts on Brett Moffitt going up to the Xfinity Series here for declaring for his points?
Well, for starters, I can safely say that I never thought I'd have this passionate a debate about Brett Moffitt and which series he's declaring for points. So that's kind of cool at the very least. But the root of the kind of argument between us is that we fundamentally have different opinions on the playoffs, essentially, is what it comes down to. Myself, I think it's pretty pointless, especially for fringe teams that aren't competing for a championship. And so I would rather see a developing driver such as Brett Moffitt, even though he is 28, that's still a developing driver, run as many races as you can. And I don't particularly care whether he makes the playoffs as a 12 seed and then loses in round one. I don't think that really matters all that much to somebody like myself. I'd rather see him run as many races as he can, do well in either mediocre, underfunded equipment, whatever word you want to describe it. I would rather see him run as many races as he can, prove himself in that kind of mediocre equipment, because if we're being honest, if/when he does make it back to the Cup Series, he's not going to be doing so with a big team. He's going to be doing so with a kind of middle of the pack to back marker team. And so doing well and outperforming your kind of mid-pack back marker equipment on the way up back to the Cup Series would be a good sign once you get there. So that's kind of my thought process there. And it kind of goes back to the NASCAR rule because of it. Declaring for Truck Series points at the beginning of the year meant that Moffitt could run both the full Xfinity Series and the Truck Series because of the quote-unquote Kyle Busch rule, where if you're in a higher series, you can't do more than 5 races in that lower series. And that applies. It's not something we see all that often, but it applies to people who also are running for points in Xfinity. And so with Moffitt changing it to the Xfinity Series, sure, he could go out, potentially win a race if they were able to, and make the playoffs, and then probably lose in round 1, maybe round 2, and then kind of goes like that. But it's at the expense of running 15 or so more races in the Truck Series right now. I don't know if it retroactively works where he's got 5 more Truck Series races he can do, or if the races he's already run applies to that total. I don't really know how that works because we don't really see people change their designation all that often. I think the last one was Ross Chastain who did so. So it's definitely a unique situation here. But for myself, fundamentally, I don't think the playoffs really matters all that much. I know that there's some financial benefits to some teams for potentially making playoffs, so I can understand it from that regard. But when I'm looking at Nice Motorsports and when I'm looking at our motorsports in the 2 different series, I think they're fairly comparable in terms of the speed they have, in terms of where they stack up versus the rest of the field. And I would rather see somebody like Brett Moffitt run 2 full series and get that experience like somebody like Ross Chastain did a couple years ago, where he basically ran every single race across 3 series versus running for points in Xfinity at the expense of 10, 15 more races in trucks.
I just think he's been there and done that with the Truck Series. He was 2 laps away basically from another Truck Series championship last season. I think he doesn't have much to prove down there. And if he's wanting to keep on progressing his career, I would say the more applicable kind of racing style is going to be more so in the Xfinity Series than the Truck Series. It's more higher caliber drivers. So it's a better matchup for him there. And I think I personally see it as the playoffs. As you make the playoffs, it's a big thing. It's like the North American sports, where if you make the playoffs, you're one of the elite teams kind of thing. It's difficult. It's difficult a little bit with this win you're in format to maybe distinguish that a little bit when you look at like Michael McDowell winning in the Cup Series so far. Obviously, that was a great win for him, but that team is not the elite of the elite. So it's a little bit different in that respect. But I think the exposure that gains and the statement that it makes if you make the playoffs in a mediocre team like that in the Xfinity Series, where we have, the Cup Series, affiliates with Joe Gibbs Racing, Team Penske, SHR, those kinds of teams, and you're kind of one of them. I think that's bodes really well for somebody like Brett Moffitt, who, he's won a Truck Series championship. He's done everything that I think he can in that series to prove himself. And now going to the Xfinity Series, I think he's just got to try and find that next caliber or higher caliber ride there that will try and boost him up and win more consistent races. And by doing so, I think if you run that series for points, that shows a little bit more where his priorities are at. And I just think that I don't know how much you're going to gain from 15 more races in the Truck Series in Nice Motorsports equipment when he's outside the playoffs already, compared to what he would really get in the Xfinity Series. I mean, he's just losing 15 more races, and I don't think in the grand scheme of things it's going to affect him that much long term if he misses those races. I think dedicating himself to try and find sponsorship for our motorsports and everything like that for Xfinity Series as his number one priority will do him a lot of good long term and short term. So I'm happy with his decision overall. I think that if he makes the playoffs, it's going to take a lot of work. He's starting from, zero. He's starting from square one here. He's like, his season hasn't really started. But I think if he had started with his Xfinity Series points and you look at the result at Homestead where he was so close to potentially beating Noah Gragson and he got into the wall there, I think he would have just a little bit of a different frame of mindset there. Like, okay, let's get me the points there instead of going for the race win kind of thing, because those points really mean something towards making the playoffs. And I think there's just a lot of variables surrounding this decision that go deeper than probably like the layer that we're looking at here. But for Brett Moffitt, I think it made the most sense for him, for his career, to look at the Xfinity Series and say, this is my place now, and let's just go for it and try and make the playoffs. And with the speed that they've shown so far this season, it's definitely plausible, but it's going to take a lot of work to get consistent stage points and obviously a race win to compete against some of these top guys.
The point that I just don't get, though, is that you talk about it as if like he's not already running those Xfinity races, which he is. Like, we're talking about the difference between running one full season and running two full seasons. Like, it's not like running the Truck Series comes at the expense of running those Xfinity races. So I just don't really get that kind of mindset. Like, it's not that running for points in trucks makes his car invisible and his results invisible in the Xfinity Series. So that I don't really get. And I also disagree with the fact that if he was running for points full season in Xfinity, he wouldn't have had to push so hard to wreck at Homestead and stuff like that. I think it's actually the opposite, where I think a team like that has to win to make the playoffs regardless. I don't see them being able to point themselves in. And if anything, I think he would have pushed harder for the win there. So I just find that kind of interesting, because for myself, I don't hold any weight to the playoffs for those kind of middle of the pack teams that don't have a shot at the championship, which is where we kind of fundamentally disagree and where your argument comes from, and where I just frankly don't really care about the playoffs. But for somebody like Moffitt, again, I would rather see him run the two full series and maximize the potential for him to go and have that kind of marquee standout result. And whether that's winning a race in the Truck Series and making the playoffs there, or winning a race in Xfinity and all these kind of things. When I think the kind of case point for somebody like Moffitt is somebody like Ross Chastain, who kind of ran back marker in the Cup Series, went down to lower tiers and fought his way through results to get back up to where he is now, where he's running with Chip Ganassi Racing, and largely did that running with Nice Motorsports in the Truck Series, having a great season there and parlaying that into a few rides with Colleague Racing and then a full season there. So I don't think that the Truck Series races are just nothing to him at this point. I think there's value in every single race you can run, whether you're a 18-year-old driver or a 40-year-old driver. And at least for myself, I understand the decision, because the perceived value of the playoffs for a lot of these drivers and whatnot, I just don't think it's all that important at the end of the day. And I would rather see somebody and the results that they do across two series, running as many races as they can, rather than going after the playoffs in one series.
Agree to disagree, I guess, on this one. I mean, It's just, it is what it is at the end of the day. Just one final thing. I think for Moffitt, if, I don't necessarily think he'll make the playoffs in Xfinity now. I think that's going to be a really, really hard task for him to do. But let's just say he does. I think that the comments or just like the broadcast itself focusing on Brett Moffitt, because he is a playoff contender, can do him a lot of good as well. It's just creating that little bit of exposure for, even if it is just three races in that first round.
In terms of sponsorship?
Yeah, I think for sponsorship and just for him as a driver as well. Like, if he can get the results in that first round, even if he doesn't move on or not because he's at a deficit with playoff points or something.
Because they already talk about Moffitt quite a bit on the broadcast.
That's Fox, though. I'm talking NBC. They usually don't. So when it comes playoff time,
I also think there's fundamental flaws with the broadcasts as well, but that's a whole different thing.
I mean, I agree with you on that one, but I mean, we could talk about this for a long time in terms of the layers that this onion really has.
If we get into the broadcast, this is turning into a 6-hour show. But.
Yeah. So I just to focus it back on Moffitt quickly, I don't know what to say anymore because obviously we have a disagreement here in terms of how we view the playoffs. I think they can be really valuable for something like that for a mediocre team or under funded team. But even if they don't make it far, I think just making the playoffs itself is just a good morale booster, and it makes it just seem the season worth it kind of thing. And if you don't make the playoffs, then you're kind of an afterthought for those final couple of weeks, but at least you're in that top 12 in points and you can kind of get mentioned a little bit more. I know what you're saying. No,
I think you just found a big flaw with the playoffs though, right there, where 3/4 of the grid are meaningless for the last third of the season. So.
But that's how the broadcast views it. I wouldn't say that they.
I know. I'm saying that's another fundamental flaw with the playoffs. But
I wouldn't say, from my perspective, I still care about the people outside the playoffs. But for the Cup Series, there's more guys that I'm looking towards in the playoffs because it's 16 guys. It's a lot of drivers that you can focus on, and the people that missed it. Yeah, there may be some special storylines throughout the final 10 weeks that they don't get that they should get talked about a little bit more if it was the regular season, but they don't. For the Xfinity Series, there's a bit of hit or miss there, and I think that they do fundamentally miss on some of these mid-pack teams that run well.
They just don't talk about them.
Yeah, but just quickly, I don't know if there's any correlation here, but Ryan Sieg, do you view his playoff performance last season, making to the round of 8, kind of just pointless? It doesn't make much of a difference?
Yeah, I don't care what he did in the playoffs. I care about the individual results. And for me, seeing the results of outperforming those teams is more impressive than him making a playoff round or anything like that. I care more about the individual results of a team in either individual races or throughout races or anything like that versus kind of these manufactured things of playoffs.
Okay. I just wanted to clear that up. I just wanted to get a little bit
I think that's a very fair question.
I think that's just a good reference point for me and just in terms of how you view it, because I would say Ryan Sieg racing is a little bit better than our motorsports, but I think there's just a little bit of correlation there. But
yeah, a big thing as well for myself, at least this season, is the fact that there really isn't any space in the Xfinity playoffs either. When you look at the fact that there's 12 big name teams that are all playoff eligible. And looking at it right now, so if Brett Moffitt had been running for points all season in Xfinity, he would be the number 12 seed right now with 164 points, 4 points back of Noah Gragson, but 6 points up on Brandon Brown, and then about 25 points up on Riley Herbst and Michael Annett. So I think the big question is, I think at the end of the day, what happens for those Riley Herbst, Michael Annett teams come the end of the season? Jeremy Clements is already close to 200 points on the season, so he's already gapped himself to kind of the rest of the midfield pack so far this season. And it's looking like either one or maybe even zero of those mid-pack teams make the playoffs. And if they do, it's probably going to come down to either extremely consistent results with Herbst or Annett having issues throughout the rest of the season, which, in all honesty, is a possible situation here, or they go out and win kind of a fluky race, such as a Talladega or something like that. So, it's definitely a toss-up there. If you do apply value to the playoffs, then I can definitely see in that regard. I also think that the Truck Series probably has as much of a shot at making the playoffs as well. So I just find it interesting to make the switch mid-season. That's I think one of the big things as well, because Nice has shown speed as well. When they've been able to have clean races, we saw Chastain and Moffitt finish top 10 at Atlanta, which is a really tough track to go out and compete against some of those bigger teams against. So it's not like we haven't seen speed from Nice. They've had some other issues as well, which has really kind of hurt themselves outside of Hocevar, who's had a really consistent season so far. But I mean, this is going to be a great storyline in Xfinity to watch the rest of the season at the very least, and maybe that's part of the strategy as well, to potentially try and get more TV time in that regard. But definitely interested to see how this plays out the rest of the year at the very least.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated here at the Green Flag. It's going to be a topic of discussion as the season goes along. Come on, Brett Moffitt, I'm cheering for you. Let's make the playoffs. Just all the best to Brett Moffitt for this decision. Hopefully it plays out for him both in the short-term and long-term future.
That's the most important
no matter
part,
how
right?
you want to look at it. It doesn't matter.
Because the reason why we talk about it so much is that we both really think that Moffitt's a really strong driver and deserves that kind of opportunity. And whether that comes with like a colleague or a junior motorsports, or whether it's just going straight back up to the Cup Series with kind of a mid-pack team, we both believe that he is a driver of the caliber to be able to go and fulfill those things. So interested to see how things play out. Definitely as silly season starts up, what openings arise, if he maybe fills any of those with some marquee performances or anything like that. But definitely interested to see how things go for Moffitt here.
Definitely. Let's move on to the next bit of news here. We'll go down to the truck series here. Corey Heim will drive 2 races for Kyle Busch Motorsports this season, starting at Darlington, I believe I guess that's 2 weeks or next week for Darlington. Because it goes like Talladega, Darlington, then Kansas, right? Doesn't it? I don't know. I could be wrong on that.
I think we got, like 3 weeks then.
3 weeks for Darlington. But then he's going to be doing the penultimate race of the season as well at Martinsville. So he's got quite the layoff there between Darlington
I wonder
and
if he
Martinsville.
maybe adds some throughout the year. But
potentially.
I really like Corey Heim. I think he's a really, really solid driver. He's maybe one of those Toyota guys that hasn't maybe gotten as much love as maybe he's deserved, but the fact that he went out with Venturini at the end of last season and put on a dominating performance in that season finale at Kansas, I think really kind of showed the talent that this guy has.
And he won the season opener.
Yeah, won the season opener at Daytona. I really don't care about that for ARCA, to be honest. But finished runner-up at Phoenix as well. I think this is a really, really strong driver. And if he has a couple big performances there in that 51 truck, could be potentially in line for a seat at KBM, depending on how things go with John Hunter Nemechek, how things go at the Xfinity Series level, whether somebody like Daniel Hemrick moves on. Like, there's a lot of moving pieces there. Yeah. The Toyota going into silly season, depending on what happens, all the way from the Cup Series, all the way down, filtering through to the Truck Series there. But with the way that ARCA is looking like it's going to go so far, getting these couple of starts is going to be big for him to kind of showcase what he's got and potentially parlay that into a Truck Series ride. Because don't forget as well, you've also got ThorSport as well with a Toyota affiliation going into the future as well. So potentially more seats for Toyota development drivers. But Corey Heim has definitely put on a show these last couple of ARCA races, and looks like he's going to be another really, really strong Toyota driver into the future.
Yeah, a championship threat for sure for Ty Gibbs down there this season, and they go.
Well, I don't know if anyone's a threat for him at this point.
Well, but. I mean, I think if they can get some luck to fall their way or something like that, potentially.
That's true.
But I mean, Ty Gibbs is the odds-on favorite. But if he can win the super speedway races this season, hey, you never know. It could potentially happen for Corey Heim there. So congrats to him on securing those rides, and we'll see if he gets any more, like you said, throughout the season. If they have any more loose spots that they need filling up for KBM. It's just an all-star truck at this point with how they want to view it. And it's just like the 54 car in the Xfinity Series for JGR. You just try and plug and fill them in as much plug and play essentially for these kind of all-star cars / trucks. Yeah. So good for Corey Heim. We'll see if he can end up in victory lane once again this weekend in the ARCA Menard Series at Talladega as they make their return to action for the first time since Phoenix. It's been a while since ARCA's been in action.
So just quickly looking at the schedule for KBM in the rest of the season, you've got coming up the next races at Kansas where Kyle Busch is running. Yeah. And then you've got Heim at Darlington now, Parker Chase, who's returning at COTA. But then after that, it's kind of Drew Dollar with a bunch of starts there. We still don't know, I believe, confirmed yet, who's running Watkins Glen Gateway or Mosport for them yet. Well, Mosport's probably going to get changed, but we don't know who's running those races yet. But outside of that, we know the rest of the schedule, and it's Drew Dollar getting a decent amount of starts here. So that's kind of the one-to-one competition for Heim in terms of the next Toyota prospect to get that Truck Series ride. And if he can perform well in those couple of tracks as well, tracks that are pretty difficult for a rookie driver going in. So going to be very interested to see how he does.
Yeah, I would have loved it if they kept a hold of Eckes over there and they just fit him into these 51 truck races as much as they could and then see what could have happened there. But, that's hindsight's 2020. I'm just a big Christian Eckes guy. It's not like
he's overly busy right now in the 98. So.
I know. Oh, it's driving me nuts. But, nonetheless, congrats to Corey Heim there on those 2 races.
Yeah,
we'll see
pretty cool opportunity.
Anymore. And then as well, Hailie Deegan is going to be racing in the SRX series later on this summer. They had like their media day, getting all the, the final touches basically ready for CBS. And it was cool to see some of the pictures and stuff like that coming out of it. Seeing Alan Bestwick a part of racing again, just, makes my eyes widen so much. I just love the guy. I think he's a gem for motorsports, and I'm happy that he's back there.
Broadcasting in general.
Dude, I don't think you understand my love for Alan Bestwick.
I do. I think I do.
It runs so deep, man. He's just so good at his job, and I'm really looking forward to it all. And then we got to see all of the drivers in their fire suits this time as well, seeing their mug shots, or not their mug shots, their driver profile shots. I think that's a little bit different. Same thing, potato.
Headshots, yeah.
Headshots, a little bit different.
They're not mugshots, at least.
I really hope that there's nothing that happens between now and the start of the series that there is any mugshots for these guys.
I mean, with some of the names involved, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, burn! Oh no, but looking forward to how that all plays out. But Hailie Deegan, I don't know how much of an involvement she's going to have in the series, how many races of the 6 that she's going to be running this summer. But they could be like this all-star car that's been rumored. They haven't finalized really the formats of it all quite yet, but I could definitely see her being involved in that capacity there. We've seen some guys. It looks like Biffle could be in it as well. So I'm looking forward to this series a whole bunch, because everything is ticking the boxes so far. I just hope the on-track product is decent, where these guys can actually race, and it's not just a bunch of these older retired guys just kind of just trundling around the track.
I mean, if we know the competitive level that they got, that's not going to happen. So
I hope we see some bump and runs.
I think we'll see a couple, but no, it's just cool, right? It's just a new fun thing that's different. And it's cool seeing somebody like Hailie Deegan involved. I would imagine she probably runs a couple of dirt races that they have there as kind of like the marquee or star current driver that gets added to the schedule there. But for SRX themselves to have somebody with the social profile like Hailie Deegan coming and being involved in the series is another huge thing. So as you kind of said, it's kind of ticking off all the boxes. And I think they just did another one, because it's supposed to be a fun series. It's supposed to be a cool series. It's less about the season-long championship or anything like that, and more about each race being an individual event. Yeah. And so getting the biggest names, getting the star drivers is what you want. And that's exactly what they've done so far.
Yeah. Is she the only female so far for the series that's actually driving?
I think so.
Yeah. That's good for them that they're doing
driving. That. Yeah.
If they're having Danica on the broadcast, that's good that they're having Deegan there on the track.
Yeah. That's quite the 1-2 punch there, at least. But I wouldn't be surprised if they add maybe 1 or 2 others. Mm-hmm. But I think in terms of the confirmed drivers right now, I think she's the only one. Okay.
But that's good that they're having some female representation in there. Yeah. And obviously, she's the youngest of them all by far. So it's going to be cool to see how she competes against some of these veterans that have years and years of experience, probably more experience than she is as old.
Biffle's foray back in the 51 truck showed us anything.
You never know. It's pretty wide open, I think, who wants to go up there and grab some victories this season. And I'm really looking forward to that. So we'll definitely be talking about that as the summer comes on.
Those are Saturday night races, right?
I think they're.
I think they were.
They were
originally going to do midweek, and then they changed
Saturday night. Yeah. Oh yeah, baby, let's go! I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. When is that first race?
I think it's.
Do you know offhand?
June something, mid-June.
Superstar Racing Experience. I'll look this up pretty quick.
This is important. Come on, I've got to have it somewhere.
SRX. Schedule.
I have it.
June 12th at Stafford,
which Connecticut.
Might be a Matt Kenseth shout there. He's got quite the history at some of these tracks here. But yeah, June 12th, June 19th, June 26th, July 3rd, July 10th, July 17th. So quite the schedule
close.
There, and
very
not too far away. And Stafford, Knoxville, Eldora, Lucas Oil, Slinger, and Nashville Fairgrounds. Like there's some good stuff in here. I'm pretty excited for this.
I know it's going to be just a mad dash for a month during the summer for these guys, and
Yeah.
Really, really, really excited for what they've accomplished so far, and hopefully the audience is there for them to attain this, and then they can bring it back if they want to next summer, and CBS can still maintain their spot in motorsports and potentially look at a broadcast deal for the Cup Series down the line. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But that does it for the NASCAR side of things in terms of news and the SRX stuff. Quickly here on IndyCar. The Indianapolis 500 is set to host 135,000 fans, 40% capacity, and what is meant to be the largest spectator sporting event since the pandemic hit in the world. That would be a huge, obviously, accomplishment. The States is doing actually pretty decent stuff with their vaccine rollout right now compared to what we have in Canada. So I know, but nonetheless, they are making improvements down there. And I'm looking forward to seeing some fans back at the track. Hopefully it's all going to be done with social distancing precautions and everything like that. They've handled that pretty well, I'd say, so far as IndyCar. And I'm looking forward to just seeing a big spectator crowd back in Indianapolis. It's going to look pretty bone dry compared to what it should be for the Indianapolis 500, but we'll still hear the roar from the fans when they go past the start finish line and the Art of Bricks. So that's the most important thing. And obviously the most important thing is everybody's health and safety, but for the on-track product itself and the atmosphere that goes around with it, with the Indianapolis 500, the biggest day in motorsports with Monaco, then we got the Indy 500 and then the Coke 600. It's just a marvelous day of racing.
Not on the same day this year. Actually,
they're not, right? Yeah, they messed it up.
Yeah, it's a week apart, which is a little bit sad. But regardless,
let's just say for the fun of it that it is.
People will see the 135,000 people and probably freak out or anything like that. But you got to remember that's 40% of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's a massive place. They've got permanent seating capacity of over 250,000 people. That's insane to think about. So when you look at the capacity that it has, how massive it is, you can have that many people in safely. I think the biggest thing is going to be how they get people into the festivities there.
Protocols.
And just kind of, because obviously once you get in there, it's huge and you can distance, but when you're talking about limited gates and lines and stuff like that, I think that's where a lot of our concern really comes. So at least we've seen with IMS, with Roger Penske and everything like that, they've taken precautions, especially when you look at last year's Indianapolis 500.
They canceled that basically with fans.
Yeah, no fans. Exactly. So, and they even postponed it, had it later in the year and still had it no fans. So we've seen them be proactive in this regard with the vaccination rollouts and everything like that are actually being done at IMS as well. It's definitely trending in the right direction. I think this is a positive sign. All signs point towards them being able to do this safely. Of course, it's open air as well, which is a big factor as well when you look at stadiums and closed venue stuff versus open air. So all signs point towards it being a good decision, and will be awesome to see because, of course, 135,000 people still isn't going to look like a crazy number on TV, which is insane to think about given the venue there. But man, it's just going to be so great to have Indy back in May, to have fans back at the track. Everything like that is just every little step we can get back towards a return to normal is great. So.
Normalcy is the biggest part here. Just having that sense of what it was prior to everything that's happened, it'll just feel like just an escape from reality a little bit, and that'll be really, really nice.
40% is probably the best number that they could do at this point, realistically, as well. So
it's going to be exciting to see how the Indianapolis 500 and, of course, the on-track product itself goes out, because it's always just going to deliver the entire couple of weeks prior to the Indy 500, and then boom, the race itself is just always great. It's one of the best, if not the best, racing spectacle of the entire motorsports calendar year. So looking forward to that coming back in May at its rightful time of the year. So pretty cool with that regard that Roger Penske and everything with IndyCar has got that sorted out and well in advance here so that everybody can get their tickets and go and support their favorite drivers or race teams at the Indianapolis 500. The last little bit of news here is a pretty heartwarming one, I would say, a good feel story here, and that is Kevin Magnussen and his father Jan Magnussen will compete together for the 24 Hours of Le Mans and the LMP LMP2 class, Orica, fielded by High Class Racing. Obviously, Magnussen does a lot of the stuff for the IMSA side of things with Chip Ganassi Racing, but they will not be running that with this being not an IMSA sanctioned event. So this is a really cool opportunity here for him and his father to race for the first time together. And of course, they get plenty of time to spend together with 24 hours. I think you're going to get a lot of bonding experience out of that all. But really, really cool here. Obviously, Magnussen's done really, really well for Chip Ganassi Racing so far for the IMSA
you got to
side of
specify
things.
which one we're talking about here.
Yeah, I know. I got to go Kevin Magnussen. I can't say Magnussen. But Jan, the last time we looked this up was 2003, right? When the last time he raced
the last time he raced it in LMP class.
Yeah, LMP
so
class.
He's been very, very active just with kind of the Corvettes and GT, whether that be GTLM or wherever it is. So I was a little surprised when they announced this and that it wasn't with the Corvettes, but I would imagine that has to do something with probably the relationship with Chip Ganassi or anything like that, or maybe it's just because Kevin is currently racing in LMP cars and obviously LMP1 versus LMP2, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's pretty damn cool. And so I don't know if they'll go out and win class or anything like that. Le Mans is obviously one of the most difficult races in the world to win, whether it's overall or in class or anything like that. But it's pretty damn cool. And it's great to see that Chip Ganassi is allowing him to go back overseas, run that race, all that kind of stuff. And anytime that you can have these kind of stories where Jan Magnussen, one of the great sports car drivers of this generation, can go out and race with his son in LMP2, like, come on, that's just awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that pans out.
Yeah.
How much I can watch of it, I don't know. But 24 hours, I'll probably tune in for a good chunk of it, like I did with the Rolex 24. So that's just always a great spectacle, and I think I have an even more profound appreciation for it after that Ford versus Ferrari movie that came out. Just like the intensity that goes behind it, and it's not the same as what it was in terms of like the development of a car and kind of thing for those specific races.
We're getting back there though. Once the hypercars come back in, it's going to get tasty again. But it's kind of funny the announcement comes as well now because coming up next weekend, May 1st, I believe it's still scheduled at least for May 1st. I should double check this, but WEC, the new season starts at Spa. So nice little timing there as the World Endurance Championship starts to ramp up into gear. I'll just double check here to make sure that that date hasn't been moved back because we all know how chaotic the schedules have been recently. But yes, May 1st, 6 hours of Spa. Great circuit. Great to see WEC come back sometime soon here in the next couple of weeks. And doing so all leading up, of course, to that spectacular Le Mans date, which now features both Magnussens.
Yeah, exactly. So really great story there. And that does it for the news and notes for today's episode.
Yes.
It is NASCAR fantasy time, Kyle, for Talladega Superspeedway. The first installment at this track for the season. Obviously, we'll have that later on into the playoffs, way down the line. But for this time, it is Ryan Blaney's time as the defending race winner of this race as well. And this was a big race last season. If you, obviously, anybody really remembers it, the iconic moment of the 43 car being pushed.
It was the first one we did back, right?
It was. So this is a bit of a...
Obviously a different date, but...
Yeah, a feel-good kind of a race here. The Bubba Wallace car being pushed to the front of the grid here in this race about a year ago or so. And we're closing in less than a month now since NASCAR returned from the pandemic last season at Darlington. That was May 17th, I believe. So, it's been a crazy year, and Talladega a little bit earlier than what it was last season. But, just a lot of storylines in that race. Hopefully we get a lot of storylines coming out of this one in a lot of good light, and looking forward to the Talladega race. But let's get into the fantasy preview. You start us off, Mr. Cushman, as you won last weekend at Richmond. We're not going to talk about who won the race because that was just unfortunate on my part.
I wasn't going to bring it up.
Congrats, Alex Bowman, for being a stay away from that wins the race once again. I don't know how I do it. But I do it. And I've got a lot of stay away froms in this one, so make sure you stay tuned for that.
Really? That's a bit dangerous for you.
Yeah, I know. And I'm trying to cover my ground here so that I can get my bonus picks right, because that's where I went for my bonus picks. So I'm doing a bit of reverse psychology with all this stuff.
Hey, I don't know if it'll work, though.
I don't think it'll work either. But let's get into the fantasy picks. You start us off.
Yes. So Talladega is, of course, one of the most difficult ones to go into, just in terms of what strategy you try to use, because it's such a chaotic race where still a lot of the big dogs go out and perform well. It's just a matter of which ones do and if they get caught up in wrecks, because a lot of the time the guys that are grabbing 20 stage points and stuff like that don't finish the race. And so it's a really, really tough balance to find in terms of, especially in the regular season, trying to balance finding good cars that could go out and get really solid top 10s, get some stage points as well, and give you the kind of return that you want in fantasy, but also not maybe blowing usages on guys that you want to use later in the year that are more quote unquote sure things later in the year. So I think for both of us, that's the big thing we have to juggle here.
Finding that balance.
Exactly. And I'm starting with Eric Almirola because of that, where I look less at average finish and more at just overall top 10s at this track, just because average finish can be teared down because of one finish of like 35th and stuff like that. But for Eric Almirola, over the last 3 years at Talladega, 6 races, 1 win, 3 finishes in the top 5, 5 finishes in the top 10. He's been really, really consistently strong at Superspeedways his entire career, not just over this recent stretch here, but we know how strong Stewart Haas can be on these Superspeedways. They're in a borderline must-win situation already this year, and this is going to be one of the best opportunities for Almirola this season to get back in that playoff hunt, whether that's a big points haul, whether that's a win. I like Stewart Haas. I like Almirola. He's my first pick here.
Alrighty. I also have Eric Almirola in my lineup this weekend for all the reasons you just mentioned there. He's had some terrible luck in his season so far. And when I look back to the fall race, he had some bad luck there as well, basically leading and then getting wiped out there on the back straightaway that caused that big playoff implication kind of wreck. But saying that, I do think that Eric Almirola is a good guy to put in your lineup this week, and you're not going to be worried about using all 10 usages on him.
That's the big thing.
By any means this season. And I haven't even used one for Eric Almirola this season. He's much better at Talladega than he is at Daytona. For whatever reason, sometimes these speedway numbers don't correlate, and it is kind of
the same discipline, but it's 2 very different tracks.
Yeah, different handling characteristics and how wide it is as well. Talladega much wider than Daytona.
I don't know if you know this, but the finish line at Talladega is in a different spot. I don't know if they've ever mentioned that on the broadcast before.
Oh my God.
I know I had to get the one pet peeve in there.
God, the amount of time they just mention these things, it's just DW was the worst with it, even though I love DW. Yeah. Oh man. Nonetheless, that is my first pick as well for fantasy this weekend. For my second pick, I'm going with the Rocket Man, Ryan Newman.
I knew you would.
He let me down at Daytona, and I'm not letting it happen again.
Man at Superspeedways.
I love this guy at Superspeedways, and he's got an average finish over the last 6 races at Talladega at 12.17, 1 top 5, 4 lap sled. He starts 28th on Sunday. I don't know. I just like Newman on these tracks. He's kind of always put himself in the right position at the right time. He's always there at the end. I swear to God, he's just right there in that mix. He never wins, but he's right there in that top 5, top 10 on that last lap. Usually is leading on the last lap and then doesn't make it back to the start-finish line. But I'm looking forward to having Newman in my lineup and try and redeem my Daytona 500 absolute shambles on lap 13 wreck to this time getting a little bit of redemption arc here with Newman as my second guy.
So I knew that you would be going with Newman.
Yeah.
I had him on my short list. Like, he's got some really, really strong numbers here over the last 6 races and just in general as well. But because of that, I'm not going to go with Ryan Newman. I am going to go with his stablemate, though, and that is Chris Buescher. He's got some really, really, really strong runs recently on Superspeedways in general. The overall numbers aren't fantastic. He's been caught up in quite a few different accidents and whatnot, but last year's regular season race at Talladega, finished 6th. We've seen him in the conversation more so at Daytona, I think, than Talladega, but the overall discipline is the same. I like Roush Fenway coming into this weekend, both Newman and Buescher. They seem to work really well and always be in similar circumstances. Buescher's had some worse luck over the last couple of years, but I think the talent's there, and I think that he'll maybe break through for another really, really strong result here. Whether that's stage points, whether that's just a good finish, I'm not sure, but I like those Roush Fenway cars a lot going into this weekend, so I wanted to go with one of them. I knew you were going to take Newman there, so I'm going to take Chris Buescher in my lineup. That's
a good pick, but you go again here with number 3.
Yes. Number 3, I think this is maybe the obvious one, maybe one that you might want to stay away from in that regard. I'm not sure where your maybe thought process is at on this guy, but it's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's always in the conversation for wins, top 10s, anything like that at Talladega. The concern with him is maybe the aggression that he's had recently, but I think over the last couple of years especially, I think he's maybe refined that quite a bit. And we've seen him go out and get those really strong finishes more consistently and not causing as many wrecks and stuff like that. And he still has that aggression, just knowing when to use it at the right time. We saw him inches away from beating out Ryan Blaney last time we were here in the regular season as well.
If the start-finish line was literally like a foot or two further than what it is.
Maybe not even.
Like he would have got him. Like yeah. He was so close.
So, and that chaotic finish, man, what a race that was. But anyways, for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. here, he's just such a super speedway talent where I think you're just kind of overthinking it if you're not putting him in. You're not worried about usages for him in general. Does he get involved in accidents? Sure. But even when you look at his entire career at a place like Talladega, 15 races, 9 top 10s. And there's a lot of people who maybe don't have the same like level of aggression or anything like that, but have worse numbers. So he's always in conversation at the front. I think that maybe lends towards him getting some solid stage points as well, which even if he does wreck out at some point, maybe helps you out there a little bit. But I think Stenhouse is, as usual, going to be one of the big players going into Talladega here. And for that reason, he's in my lineup.
He's in my lineup as well. I couldn't say no to Stenhouse just because of the usages and how well he runs here more so than Daytona. I know he's won at Daytona in the past, but this is his super speedway track, not as much Daytona. I think the wider lines help him a little bit in terms of his aggressive nature. You know, he's very similar to Joey Logano in a lot of respects with these kind of tracks where they're super aggressive and sometimes that bites them in the butt, but also when they start a wreck, they usually get through it. So I'm going to take that kind of approach here and say that Stenhouse, even if he does kind of start a wreck, not to say that he will, because I think he, like you said, he has refined that a little bit the last 2 years for sure. But even if he does, I think he probably gets through it because the guy that usually starts a wreck does not get involved in it. And that's what drives people the most insane about these kinds of tracks is that those guys don't usually, pay the consequences for their actions sometimes.
Don't hate the player, hate the game.
Yeah, that's but I hate both sometimes. So that's kind of that's the tough part. Like Kyle said, he's got some good numbers here. 3 top 5s of the last 6 races, 57 laps led, start 17th, was a fraction of an inch basically away from winning this race last season. And he's always putting himself in the right position, it seems, here at Talladega, the site of his first career Cup Series victory as well. So yes, that's what I'm going with for number 3. Number 4, I'm going with my first heavy hitter here. I'm going with a bigger name here in my lineup.
Okay.
It's going from the Team Penske stable. It's Joey Logano. And just because of the reason I just mentioned, he starts the wrecks and he never gets involved. And he's got one of the best average finishes here amongst anybody in the field at Talladega. He's better here than he is at Daytona. And over the past 6 races, he's got an average finish of 10.67. The third best amongst active drivers here. You've got John Hunter Nemechek that ran 2 races last season, actually had 2 top 10s.
Whooped you last year in fantasy.
don't even bring it up. I've got Boyer on you at the Daytona Road Course. All right. So yeah, Joey Logano's got a win here over the past 6 races as well. 3 top 5s, 201 laps led. The Penske cars lead a lot of laps due to the Ford's powerhouse that they are here. And they work so well together. They have the advantage in terms of numbers and how well that they perform on these super speedway tracks. And he's starting second. I know starting position doesn't really matter on these kinds of tracks, but having his teammates closer to the front with him, the Fords could do some damage early and get some pretty lofty stage points. That's the thing with Logano. He gets a lot of stage points, may not get the best finish at the end of it, but I think just in terms of getting that finish in those stages kind of compensates for maybe that lack of a good run at the results of the checkered flag. So that's my 4th guy in my lineup.
I'm not using Logano here at this one. I like the play in terms of him having the stats there, but I think a lot of it is dependent on him getting those big stage points. And I think it's just too much of a risk for myself, where I would rather take some other swings, save a Logano usage for somewhere else in the regular season here, because I've liked what I've seen from that team so far this year, specifically at the 750 horsepower tracks as well. So I like him going into the rest of the season here. They've been one of the top 3 teams so far this year. I do like the swing there in terms of his past success there. And even if he does crash out, he usually gets a pretty solid points haul. But I'm not going to go with Joey Logano in my lineup here. I'm going to look to try and save that usage. And I'm going to match you in terms of a big team driver in this regard, but maybe somebody who I'm not as concerned about using usages on for this season, which is a little funny to say because he is your defending race winner. Alex Bowman is in my lineup here. Hendrick Motorsports is a very interesting team at super speedways, as we've talked about many a time. It seems like they always like to run together and then always wreck out in the same wreck together. But looking at some of the trends recently, some of the Larry Mack trends here, the regular season Talladega race over the last 3 years for Alex Bowman has been pretty damn good. 8th in 2018, 2nd in 2019, and 7th just last year in 2020. It's been the playoff races that have really dropped down his average finish here, but I think he's a really solid super speedway racer. We know how much speed they can get in those Hendrick cars. It's just a matter of avoiding the wrecks. He's going to be starting in a really solid position. It's just going to be a matter of avoiding the wrecks. But if he can do so, I think he's a good candidate to get some good stage points. And of the kind of big name teams, I think he's got that perfect blend of a fast race car, teammates to work with, good super speedway prowess, but also not too worried about using 10 usages on him throughout the season. So Alex Bowman is my quote unquote big name in my lineup here.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know what to feel about Bowman. I am undecided on the 48 car. I will say
Please talk badly on him.
Okay. Nope, I will not.
Because we know how that works. But I am next as well.
Yeah, you got 5.
And for myself here, I'm taking another swing, but again, somebody that I'm not super concerned about using the usages on, but I think somebody who's a legitimate threat to win this race. It's his home track. He's getting a Netflix documentary. Bubba Wallace, welcome to the lineup. The Toyota crew like to work together. We saw that at the Daytona 500. He's part of that crew now. I just think that he's got some really, really solid super speedway talent. He maybe has tried to push it a little too far in the past, specifically with Richard Petty Motorsports, and maybe trying to do too much to try and get that win because that's what they needed to go out and make the playoffs. But consistent finisher in terms of being in kind of that 15th to 25th range. So he's not one of the first guys to wreck out. If he does, he's usually there late. And if he does wreck out, it's probably because he's trying to go out and get that really strong result. But I think 2311 has really, really showed strong at the Daytona 500. I like the teammates he's working with. I liked what I saw from Bubba Wallace at that race as well, being consistently in the conversation until some pit strategy kind of threw away a chance at the win for them. But I really like Bubba Wallace on super speedways. Home track, 2311. The Netflix doc just got announced. It feels like it's all pushing towards the right direction. Bubba Wallace is in my fantasy lineup.
Funny you mentioned Mr. Bubba, because I have him penciled in as my 5th guy as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I was undecided on Bubba a little bit, but I think for all the reasons you mentioned, like, once again, he just has this prowess of doing well, and I was really, really impressed by the speed they showed at Daytona. The Toyotas are a little bit lesser so here at Talladega, I would say, than they are at Daytona usually.
Yep, that's fair.
But I think Bubba Wallace is just incredible talent on these kinds of tracks. Puts me over the edge to put him in.
Just think about the storybook, right? Just think about.
I know. It's so hard to not put him in.
Yeah.
And once again, you're not concerned about using all 10 usages on this 23 car this season. The super speedways, I played him in the 500. Let me down just right at the end, just with the pit penalty. Would have had such a great day, but was not meant to be there. Maybe it's meant to be here on Sunday at Talladega. So that's my fifth guy. And once again, I'm struggling with my sixth pick here, Kyle. It's just basically rinse and repeat every episode with this last pick. And I don't know why I'm struggling with the Talladega lineup, because it's just not going to pay off whoever I pick here. But you're just thinking just for it to go the window in like lap 15 anyways. Exactly. Like who's going to last only 15 laps and just, break my heart once again with these tracks. So I've got quite the list here in terms of people I am looking at for this last spot.
Not surprising.
Eric Jones, Corey LaJoie, Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece, Alex Bowman, and Justin Haley. I'm not going to go with Bowman because you took him. I'll go with a little bit of a different one. But the other ones, they're all kind of like these weird kind of picks because they're all Chevrolet drivers, and I didn't really see that coming from my last pick, but we're here. We're here, and we're loving it. Man, it's so tough because the RCR cars have pretty decent numbers here, and they've run pretty well on these super speedway tracks in the past. Dillon, a 500 champion. Reddick causes a lot of trouble on these tracks, but still ends up getting a solid finish at the end of it. Eric Jones is much better at Daytona than he is Talladega, but finished fourth, I think it was, fifth last year in this race, was so close to winning before getting bumped out of the way by Blaney coming to the stripe. And the 43 car does pretty well on these super speedway tracks since they know this is their best shot to win a race. I picked him in the 500. I'm a little bit more uncertain of him here at Talladega, so I'm going to stay away from Eric Jones in this thing, but I think he's definitely a really, really good usage. Man, this is tough. This is exceptionally tough. You know what? Screw it. Let's just go with Eric Jones.
Okay.
I'm going with Eric Jones as my last pick. I can't bring myself to pick a Spire or RCR car this weekend. I just can't do it. Or Ryan Preece. I know he's got great numbers here. I'm going to stick with my boy Eric Jones. I love him so much, and I think that this is a huge opportunity for him this weekend. And I'm not worried about usages on him. I don't know. It's probably not even going to pay off at the end of the day. It's not going to be a make or break kind of thing. But with the Chevrolet Alliance, I'll just go with him and say that he gets a decent finish at the end of the day.
Interesting pick there, Eric Jones. He was on my short list as well. But for myself in this final one, I'm calling a bit of an audible here. I'm not going to lie. Originally, I was basically going to pick one of Corey LaJoie or Justin Haley, go with like the safe pick, the guys who are usually there at the end, get you a solid like 25 to 30 points along those lines. But that's not that fun, is it? No, that's not fun. No. So I thought that you were going to take LaJoie. I'm not going to lie, because for the 500, you took McMurray. I thought you were going to take another Spire car. You didn't. So I'll take a bit of a swing on a guy who's going to be mixing it up in the pack. Might just go out and wreck out, but I like him on super speedways, veteran driver. So he's somebody that I feel good about potentially as playing the safe kind of mold here. And he's got some pretty damn good results here at Talladega recently as well. My final pick is also coming from the Chevy camp. Kurt Busch is my final pick.
Okay.
For my lineup here. Just looking at some of the regular season results here at Talladega. 9th last year, the year prior 6th. Before that 2nd, before that 6th, before that 8th, before that 12th. So you got to go back to 2015 for the last time you finished outside the top 10 in these regular season Talladega races. I know that's shortening the sample, but the pressure that's on a playoff driver in a Talladega race is different from one in a regular season race. So I'm just looking at those and seeing where it's gone recently. I like Chip Ganassi cars at super speedways as well. I thought about Ross Chastain for a little bit, but I feel like there's just a little too much aggression there, and he's got to refine it a little bit more in the Cup Series before he can become a true super speedway threat. But for myself, Kurt Busch, I think he's got that blend of veteran driver. I know I've used him a couple of times this year, but again, he's not somebody that I would be heartbroken about losing usages on or anything like that. And I think that they've legit got a shot to go out and get a top 5 or win the race. We know Kurt Busch is strong on super speedways. We know he's got a good car behind him. He's got a lot of teammates to work with in terms of the Chevy camp. So I'll take a swing, maybe a little bit unexpected for myself. I'll take a swing on Kurt Busch here.
I like it. I like it a lot with that last one there. So quite the matchup. Man, this is an interesting one. That's for sure. But let's go to the honorable mentions here. It's a long list. It's a very long list with honorable mentions for this episode.
What, are you just going to name the whole grid?
Basically, we've got Ryan Blaney as an honorable mention because he's won this race twice in his career so far. He's very, very good here. I just can't bring myself to put a usage on him this weekend. Denny Hamlin, one of the best, if not the best super speedway racer right now in the Cup Series. There's absolutely no way I'm using him on 2 or super speedway tracks this season. I am using him only for the 500 because that's more of a surefire bet than he is at Talladega. If you have 8+ usages left on Hamlin, maybe go for it. But with me at 6,
even then, I don't know, man. I thought about taking the swing, but like,
I can't do it with Hamlin right now. I can't. He's just so good. He's just so consistent right now. 8 races in the top 5 of 9 so far. How can you really put him on a super speedway where he could get a great points week, but you'd probably rather have him at like a 1.5 miles for short track, basically anywhere. Hamlin's done exceptionally well this season. Kurt Busch was in my honorable mentions. I didn't want to put him in my lineup, but I think there definitely is some value with the one car this weekend. And as well in your lineup,
Chris Buescher. Put him? Can you put both of those guys in your stay away froms? Let me get to my stay away from. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Chris Buescher is definitely one I was looking at heavily, but when you said him, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go away from him this weekend, just so that it's just some variety, right? Yeah. So I think he's definitely a really, really good player for this weekend to get a solid top 10 potentially if he puts himself in the right position, and he got to have obviously a lot of luck at Talladega to avoid the big one. Corey LaJoie, Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, Ryan Priest, those all kind of fall into the same category, and Justin Haley I'll put in there as well. I think those are all people you're not going to worry about usages. I could make an entire lineup of those 5 really if I wanted to. And feel fine about it.
And feel good. That's the thing. And they're just really, really solid bets to get you some points this weekend. Why I didn't go with them, I don't know. But I can't give you a good reason why I didn't, because there's not really a good one. They could all make an exceptional value pick this weekend. And then the last 2, Alex Bowman is in my honorable mentions, so unfortunate for you there. And Brad Keselowski is in here as well.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, his numbers may not – I remember, back in like 2009 to 2014, this was Keselowski's playground. Like, this guy was
he's got like 5 wins here, doesn't he?
Unbeatable. But it's been kind of a dry spell for the 2 cars. He's had some pretty bad luck on these super speedway tracks over the past couple of seasons. When I thought he was probably the best super speedway racer in the Cup Series, and that's definitely kind of migrated down towards being a top 5, top 10 kind of guy now. I don't know if that's the aero package or what, but
that's Denny Hamlin's throne right now.
Yeah, that's Denny Hamlin's throne. But I would definitely argue Keselowski was the guy to beat for many, many years, but he unfortunately fell in that Dale Jr. era where Jr. is still probably the best one. So he lost a couple races because of that, and maybe gained a couple because of it. It's just kind of up in the air. But Keselowski, I think, is due for a bounce back kind of on these super speedway tracks this season. Was running second, coming to the start-finish line, going into turn 3 at the 500.
On lap 6 is what you're telling me?
Essentially, that's what I'm telling you. But Brad Keselowski, I don't know. I think there's some value maybe to be had there if you want to. Shout. If you don't want to, if you're on the fence of Keselowski's results so far this season, I think he could be a valuable usage maybe. But I just wanted to throw him in there. Stay away from. So who's going to win the race this weekend? It's quite a bunch. And it's going to fall into these big tiers, all right? The rest of the Toyotas that are not in either of the people I've mentioned. No. Okay, so that includes Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. for this one. You do not want to use any of those 3 this weekend. and the rest of Hendrick Motorsports as well.
Oh, that's risky.
Yeah, I put William Byron, Chase Elliott, and Kyle Larson in that category here.
William Byron surprises me a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
His usages are way too valuable right now. He's in the top 5 in points. Like
he's the top Hendrick car right now.
I can't play him here at Talladega when he's run so well in the top 10 basically every weekend. And the rest of SHR. So I've really spread myself thin.
No.
So that includes Kevin Harvick, Cole Custer, and Chase Briscoe. So basically all the heavy hitters on our traditional weekend, stay away from them this weekend, because if this season is any indication, it is absolutely chaos for the results at the end of this thing when the checker flag falls. And it most likely could be a top 10 filled with a bunch of these guys at the end of it. But that's a risk I'm willing to take, and their usages are too valuable, or they just don't get the results on these kinds of tracks. I think I've done a decent job with those, but at the end of the day, probably one of them will end up winning the stupid race. So I don't know what to do anymore. There's no winning for me here, and I can't let down the people because I do think they are legit stay away froms. But Alex Bowman just threw me out of the water there at Richmond last week when I only had two stay away froms, Blaney and him, and of course he wins the race. So that does it for the honorable mentions and stay away froms for Talladega. Yes. Do you want to add anybody to my list?
I don't have anyone I want to add, but we gotta give the randomizer some love, right?
Okay.
We gotta give the randomizer some love. So before we came on, I went ahead and of course I made my lineup, but I also randomized the lineup to go ahead and see what it would have been in an alternate scenario if I had gone ahead and decided to stick with Old Faithful and go ahead and do a randomized lineup.
I hate that website.
Would you like to know said randomized lineup? Because it's an interesting mix.
Honestly,
I gotta say
no, because I don't want to see how bad I'm gonna lose this weekend to the stupid randomizer.
I'm telling you anyways.
Okay.
So we start with Denny Hamlin. He was the first randomized one.
Are you joking?
Yes. I'm not even kidding. I have it in the order that it randomized. Denny Hamlin was the first randomized one, which, I mean, is a decent shout, but do I want to use a Hamlin usage at Talladega? Not really. So there's your first one.
No.
Second, Chase Briscoe, which, I mean, SHR is decent, but rookie driver, I'm not sure. Third, Kurt Busch.
Okay.
Fourth, Daniel Suarez.
Oh, he's a good shout this weekend too, I think. I could have put him in honorable mentions. I'll put him in there now.
Fifth, Tyler Reddick.
Oh.
And sixth, Joey Logano.
We're going to lose. We're going to lose. We're going to lose.
It's going to be better, I think, but I'm kind of glad I don't have to use those usages, though. Like, I don't want to burn Hamlin and Logano usages at Talladega.
That stupid site, man. I hate it.
It's literally just random.org. I mean, you know. But, yeah.
Oh, that's a good lineup. That's a good.
But just be glad I didn't randomize my lineup and had that, because you would be fuming right now.
If you had both Logano and Hamlin in your lineup after the freaking randomizer gave you those guys, I would probably end the call right now. I would leave. I'm sorry. Like, I can't. I can't fathom how that thing wants to do me in so bad each and every time we use it.
It's really. I literally. I'm
thankful that you're not using
drivers.
it this weekend. Like that's
I literally
nuts.
put in 30 drivers, but I'm thankful I'm not too, because I don't want to use those usages. Because if it does go wrong, then I'm like in the hole big time the rest of the year.
Ridiculous. But yeah, it's close. It's 6-5 on the season series so far. So isn't it? Yeah,
yes.
6-5.
Yeah, you went up by 2, and then I won Richmond, so I'm clawing it back. But you've still got overall.
Is it 6-5? That's 11 races? No, that can't be right. It's 5-4.
Is it 5-4? Yeah, it's 5-4.
Yeah, 5-4. Yeah.
Trying to add a couple of races here, eh?
Sorry. Well, I'm just trying to predict the future because I'm going to lose this weekend, but then I'll probably win the next one.
Yeah, so you're still up 1549 to my 1453, so you basically still got like 90 points on me thereabout.
Okay.
But
that's going to go away real quick this weekend.
It's funny because every single time, like, you're always competitive. And I either like hit big or hit terribly, and there's like no in between for myself. So
yeah, I just have either heartbreak or victory. Basically, like it's just marginally
you
close.
Either win big or lose by like a margin. Like but alrighty. Should we get to the most meaningless bonus picks of the year?
Yeah, sure.
Alrighty.
I hate this. I hate it. Who goes first for this one?
I believe you do. Let's see.
We have Arca in here.
You go first for the winner pick, correct?
Yeah.
So you, me, you. Oh, I go first for this. So it's good thing,
all right.
Good thing we did it right because it's snake style. So I had the last one. So okay, checks out. Top Chevrolet. See, these are dumb. Like, there's no, like, it's all just stupid. It doesn't matter. I'm taking Chase Elliott just in case. Like, he's won here in the past. He's good here. I don't know if he's going to do the thing. He could also finish last. I have no clue, but Chase Elliott is going to be my shout for top Chevy.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is mine.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm going. I can't go with a big name for Chevrolet because I'm the most skeptical of the big names with Chevrolet. I think they may be the best overall threat. But I think the top end guys,
boom or bust.
Essentially, that's what I'm thinking for Chevrolet. But I'm going with Stenhouse. This is kind of his playground, and he's fallen short the last couple of years and was the top Chevrolet in this race last season. Let's see if he can replicate that once again. My least favorite category of them all, the top Ford finisher, because every time I don't pick Joey Logano, he is the top Ford finisher. And I am very skeptical to use him again this weekend, even though I have him in my lineup. Saying that, though, if I have him in my lineup, I'm going to go an audible right now using my own intuition. I'm going with Ryan Blaney here as my top Ford finisher just because I don't have him in my lineup, and he does really, 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 really well here. I could totally go with Logano because he probably will be the top Ford finisher, but at least I have him in my lineup this weekend where I can use that as a little bit of a buffer and take that chance here with Ryan Blaney.
I'm going Joey Logano. Look, hey, you said it. You said it. If he's starting the wreck, then he's probably not in it, and that applies to Logano here. I do like Blaney because he's just been so good at Talladega here. If he's gotten through the wreck, he's basically winning the race essentially. But I'll take the shout for Joey Logano here and mix it up a little bit.
Alrighty, top Toyota.
The Toyotas are stupid. I have no clue what to do, so I'm just going to go Denny Hamlin. He's the best super speedway racer in the series right now. I don't want to use a usage on him or anything like that, especially because they usually like to stay away from the stage points and be there at the end has kind of been a strategy that they've liked to go with a
they don't need to go for stage points right now. They're in such a huge lead. Like, go for the win.
Exactly. So I'll take the shout for Denny Hamlin here.
I am going with Hamlin as well. I can't look at any of the Toyotas and say, yeah, you're going to beat Hamlin this weekend, apart from Bubba. Like, and even then, Hamlin's the odds-on favorite to win this category if he stays out of trouble. Yeah. So, as much as I would love to put Kyle Busch, I can't put him there. I think it's if I just want to go with reverse psychology and just go with that, but I'll go with Denny Hamlin for this one. This is the tough one because we're getting into these two can really make or break kind of your lineup here this weekend, specifically the manufacturer, because the winning organization is tough to pick and the race winners obviously to pick. So this is valuable 10 points here maybe that could make or break our fantasy for this weekend. He could obviously go with any of the three manufacturers for this weekend, but I can't go with Toyota this weekend because they have way too less of cars compared to the pack of the Chevrolets and the Fords. It's just whether or not you've gone with Chevrolet or Ford, because I could see you probably just going the reverse of what I do or match me on it. I don't know what to think. I'll go with Ford.
Really? I'm a little surprised by that. Not gonna lie.
I had Chevrolet written down initially, but I'm gonna go with Ford.
I'm going with Chevy. When I'm looking at the players involved, I think there's a lot of Chevys spread across a couple of teams that could be in the hunt versus Ford, where it's primarily coming from one camp, and that's why I've gone with Chevrolet as my manufacturer and then Penske as my organization. Now, to be fair, Roush Fenway might be in the mix, and that might even things out in terms of Ford versus Chevrolet and those kind of picks there. But I think I'm going to play the field of the Chevrolets and then diversify and maybe take the swing on the Penske's as well.
Interesting.
Where are you going for organization though? Are you splitting it up, or are you going heavy on the Penske's here?
I don't know, because I have Penske written. I had Penske written down, but I don't know if I want to go with it. Oh, this is tough. Yeah, screw it. Let's just go with Penske.
Yeah.
There's no way you can predict this. Like, you just have to go with the bigger organizations just to cover the odds. Like, I can't
take the 3-team organization.
I know, but I mean, saying that, I think all three could win this weekend. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, it's almost like it's just like a gong show. Like, who the hell knows? But
I hate it.
I think the biggest gong show is our winner picks, at least.
Well, we'll get to that a little later on. We have a couple of other series to get to first, and that's ARCA and Xfinity. I believe I start with ARCA here, right? That's how we're going. Go, and then you get Xfinity, and then I get Cup.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, that makes sense.
All right, ARCA, Ty Gibbs. I don't care. I don't know.
The race is gonna suck, so I'm taking Drew Dollar.
Okay. And that does it for ARCA preview.
Yeah.
Xfinity.
I mean, I'm still gonna watch it. I'm just gonna hate watch it, but you know.
Yeah. You got first Xfinity pick.
My boy Justin Haley. I thought about putting him in the actual lineup. I didn't follow through on it. I thought about one of the other colleague cars or something like that, but Justin Haley, he's the guy. He's the guy in super speedways, so I got to go with him.
I hate you.
Simmer down over there. Make your pick.
Brett Moffitt.
Oh, you so would. You so would. Oh, my Lord.
I don't care, honestly.
Oh, my God.
I hope he wins so bad this weekend, man.
Wow.
Oh, man. I don't know. I had Jeb Burton initially, but I'm like, let's just go for the let's go for the Bants. I had Justin Haley, but then he took him, and I was like, okay, I'll go with Jeb. But no, let's go full troll mode. Brett Moffitt is the Xfinity Series winner. Cup Series winner pick. Do you have yours?
I do.
Oh, no.
And here's my tease. You should know who it is. That's all.
Okay.
I know that throws you for a loop as you try to make your pick. But
well, I'm going to go with my gut on this one, and I'm going to cover my bases. I'm not going with the Penske guy for this one.
Okay.
As much as I would like to, because I can't go all in on Ford at a track like this. It's just way too risky. I'm going with the guy that I picked for Richmond, the Super Speedway ace, Denny Hamlin.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm playing it safe, and I'm going to say that he's there at the end, and I can't pick a lower level name than Hamlin this weekend. It's way too risky, and I'd rather be safer than sorry if a big name does end up winning.
Who do you think I'm picking?
I have no clue.
After that, you have no clue?
No, honest to God.
I've told you who my race winner pick is already.
Is it in your lineup?
No. I find that interesting.
Chase Elliott?
Because we did season previews for each series, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, we did. For the Cup Series 1, we did surprise winner picks.
Oh,
correct?
my God. Oh, my God.
Correct? Come on. I can't make a surprise winner pick at a track like Talladega and then not follow through on it. Your race winner getting redemption for what should have been his first career victory, just splitting hairs at the playoff race at Talladega, is your boy getting his 100th win for Wood Brothers as well. John Wood was on Dale Jr. Download this week as well. It's all looking good. Matt DiBenedetto is your race winner at Talladega. Following through, hey, I can't go surprise winner pick in the preseason show and not follow through on it when we get here. Matt DiBenedetto is getting it done for the Wood Brothers.
Oh my God. I cannot. You didn't mention him the entire episode.
I know. I played you there. But
man,
there you go.
What a weird one. But
hey,
it makes sense.
I said it in the preseason. I can't not follow through on it. So.
Okay, I have him in my honorable mentions. Then is Matt DiBenedetto, just so it doesn't happen.
Come on.
I don't need those.
But there you go.
But if you get that right, that's impressive. If you can pull
if I get that right after like saying that preseason too, I'll feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, but, that's kudos to you there.
He's also had some terrible luck on super speedway, so we'll see. But
yeah. Alrighty.
You know what? Might as well take a shout. Why not?
Absolutely. You got nothing to lose. Michael McDowell, the Daytona 500 winner, was not mentioned whatsoever in any of these categories this weekend, but he has had some pretty poor numbers here at Talladega.
He's got one top 10 in 20 races.
Yeah, it's been Talladega. Really bad. And for front row's success here in the past, winning the 1-2 with David Reagan and David Gilliland, I just couldn't mention him at all this weekend, despite his win in the 500. He's always there at Daytona, never here at Talladega. So I just wanted to throw that in there right at the end of things. But that does it for the NASCAR fantasy preview for Talladega for this upcoming weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed that part of it.
Yes.
Congrats on your win, Kyle, for the weekend, just ahead of time, just so we can get that out of the way. And we can address that now before the race recap episodes next week. But yeah, do you want to just do quickly for St. Pete then for IndyCar, make our prediction there?
Pretty excited for this one, to be honest. Like first weekend of IndyCar was great. Qualifying was amazing when you look at the amount of different players involved. Pato O'Ward getting the pole, but then of all people, Alex Palou going through and getting the win. So shaping up to be a fantastic season. And St. Pete is always a really fun race as well. So looking forward to this one.
Absolutely. Great season opener at Barber Motorsports Park. Lots of chaos right out of the gate there with the big wreck with Newgarden, and that kind of just set things off for a great strategic race from Chip Ganassi Racing there with Palou. And then I think Pato O'Ward probably had the fastest car. They just messed up on the strategy there with Arrow McLaren. So nonetheless, going to be an exciting one here in St. Pete. First practice ended while we were recording this. Joseph Newgarden leading the timing sheets there. Will Power in second. So Penske 1-2, but the top 15 or so is separated by like 5/10 or something like that. It's really, really close this weekend so far. Unfortunately, Jimmy Johnson's down in last, but nonetheless,
unfortunately, that sounds about right.
It's going to be a competitive weekend here in St. Pete. So let's get our winner pick in for this weekend. You go first with this one, my friend. Who are you taking to win the second race of the season?
Yes. It was a very interesting opening week of the IndyCar season because there were some legit potential winners that wrecked out after like 3 corners. Yeah. And so we don't really know where the race pace is for teams like Newgarden, for Herta, for even some new players at new teams like Rosenquist or anything like that. Yeah. So very interested to see how things go at St. Pete, assuming those players get through the first couple of corners. But for myself, I think I'm going to take a bit of a shout, maybe a corporate shill. I don't know. You took him last time. I'm going to take him this time. I'm going to take Alexander Rossi. I think that they had a nice, very competitive opening weekend. We're there for a very solid finish. After the first week, I think they'll take that and take the momentum into St. Petersburg, a track where Rossi's been pretty solid in the past as well. So I'll take Rossi to get the win at St. Pete.
Good pick. I'm going with the guy that finished runner-up in the opening race of the season, Will Power, getting some redemption here in St. Pete. Had that trouble there in the final race last season there. I think he was running in the lead, top 2 at least there, and then had a mechanical failure, I think it was, or something like that. And then obviously DNF'd out of the race, so that was unfortunate for him. Looks good in the timing sheets. Penske does well around here. Newgarden, the defending race winner here, the back-to-back race winner here in St. Pete. We looked at the trends a little bit before that. It's been since 2015.
Yeah, it's been back-to-back winners since 2015. Yeah, Montoya won back-to-back. Who was it in between?
Pagano?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Bourdais. Bourdais won back-to-back, of course. Yes, and then Newgarden the last 2. So, assuming whoever wins this race will, yes, that too.
I went with it. I didn't care.
I noticed that as well. But no, for this one, I mean, whoever wins this weekend, we know is going to win next year at least. So there you go. But
exactly. We'll see who ends up in victory lane at the end of this one. It's going to be a fun weekend of racing. Those two. We've got plenty more motorsports across the world there. Kyle, what else is going on with motorsports?
We got a lot of fun stuff this upcoming weekend. Of course, you've got Talladega festivities for 3 of the NASCAR series with ARCA involved as well this weekend. No truck series, unfortunately. But around the world, you've also got WRC at Croatia right now, which is fun to see them back. I don't remember who's first right now. I think it's Rovin Para, but I'll double check that right now. now. Other than that, you've got Formula E at Valencia, so not a typical street circuit that they usually go to. Should be a fun time there. And then, of course, IndyCar as well at St. Petersburg. I'll just check quickly for WRC here, but a fun weekend overall with a lot of fun stuff going on.
Yeah, we've got IndyCar on NBC once again this upcoming weekend. I believe, what time is it starting at for IndyCar this weekend? At 12 p.m. Eastern. Is it really 9 a.m. that start? Oh, wow. Okay. 9 a.m. start for myself, but 12 p.m. Eastern for the East Coast viewers there for IndyCar on NBC. And then, of course, after that, they actually scheduled it properly this time where you can watch the Cup Series race once that basically ends. But it's a little earlier this weekend at 2 p.m. Eastern time there on the big network of Fox for the NASCAR Cup Series. So make sure you go watch either of those races this weekend. Lots of action around the world with motorsports. So make sure you keep it tuned in here at the Green Flag. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today's episode, Kyle?
Yeah, so just a quick note, of course, it's Sebastian Ogier currently on top. Parra lost the lead there. Of course, it's Ogier on top, if we're being honest. But no, a fun weekend overall. When you look at racing throughout the entire weekend as we kind of get into kind of the mix of the schedule here with a lot of racing going on each weekend here. Talladega is always fun, which is just the chaos of it. It's going to be great to be able to watch IndyCar on its own and then NASCAR on its own as well. So I'm glad you mentioned that as well. And then I'll potentially check out some of the Valencia racing as well and maybe the last day of WRC as well. But just overall, a lot of different racing this weekend, but a lot of fun stuff here.
Yeah, looking forward to Formula One back in action as well in Portugal, I believe it is for the next one. So lots of stuff happening here. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at the Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We would really appreciate it. Past 50 subs over the past couple of days as well. So we thank you guys for your support on that front. If you want to join our fantasy league as well for NASCAR, it's never too late. Our results have been kind of all over the place. And Formula One as well. Make sure you go join that. The links to those will be in the description, as well as like the code for Formula One there. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman, signing off for now. I will talk to you a little bit later next week to get you recapped from the racing episodes that happen over the course of this race weekend. Enjoy the racing, everybody.